Hello, my name is Martha Guiza and I'm going to be presenting my differentiate unit on landforms. So I'm going to start the presentation. I'm going to try to do a quick review of every session. The first session I want to cover what makes the Earth's crust move. So basically I'm going to have two activities. The first activity I'm going to discuss the prior knowledge of the students on landforms, ask them for examples of different types of landforms, circle the correct examples that they gave me, and to have like a type of web map so that they can organize their ideas. They could find similarities or differences between the different landforms because there's, for example, water landforms and desert landforms and kind of like basic landforms like mountains and hills. Then we're going to be doing activity 2, which is basically 3 stages for the 3 different types of plate movements, because we're going to be watching a video on plate tectonics, and that video is going to be speaking about the 3 types of plate movements. So the 3 stations are going to have different materials, videos, explain more in depth the plate movement, and then we're going to have also materials so that they can create their own models, and here are some examples of the different models that students can create. So I'll give them ideas, or they can make their own, they can make their own models using what you see here, or clay. So that's what I would do. And they would also have like a worksheet where they would write down some answers for certain questions in each station. Then we would go on to session 2, which is called Rocks and Rolls. It's going to be based on the video Magic School Bus entitled Rocks and Rolls. And it's going to be about the effects of water erosion on landforms. So we're going to go to YouTube, watch the video, but we're going to be using the video guide, because many times students get distracted or they just don't capture the main ideas. So with this video guide, the students are going to be able to capture the ideas that are necessary to understand the concept. This video guides are going to be differentiated, and the standard enrichment group is going to have partners in order to complete the differentiated video guide, and the mediated group is going to have adult assistance and extra time. After the video, we're going to be playing a game called Numberheads Together Software. This is basically on a strategy called Numberheads Together Software by Kagan Cooperative Learning. Basically what happens is that each student has a worksheet, a response board, and something to write with, and then the class is divided into teams, and they will be playing this game. So basically what the teacher does in advance, she or he stores the game questions, and there's going to be different difficulty levels of questions so that all the students, all ability levels, can at least answer some questions. And so what you do is you divided the team into, you number the students from 1 to 4 in each team, and then as the class plays the game randomly selects a question and goes through the steps of the game. So basically the first screen would be once you get the questions on the board, then you get the screen think time, and this is a time when the students start thinking about the question and there's no talking. And then the second screen is write your answer. So everybody privately in their worksheets writes their answer, and then the third step is heads together, and this is where the teams get together to share their answers and then reach like a consensus of what's going to be the team's answer. So in this step it's important because this is where the standard and the enrichment group will be able to help the mediated group, or will be able to help the team members who maybe got the answer wrong, and they're able to help them understand why that's the answer, why the team got that answer. And then after the team got together, they have their team answer, then the game goes on to who answers, and this is where the game has a spinner, and the spinner generates a number, and then that number, that student number, is the student who gets up. And in the response board, as you can see here, they write down the team answer, and so everybody is able to show their team answer, because everybody is going to be writing their team answer on those boards, and is going to be showing the teacher those boards. So there's going to be different formats for the questions, and I'm going to be able to assess them because I'm going to be having in the worksheets, they're going to be writing in the first column their individual answers, in the second column their team answers, and in the third column if the team got it right or wrong. And that's the way I could assess it. And I'm also going to be during the game kind of viewing the students with a checklist to see if they're doing the procedures correct. And then after that, we're going to be going on to session 3, which is on erosion. It's the same water erosion, but this time they're going to be predicting and testing their predictions. So basically we're going to be going outside as a class, and we're going to be setting up erosion boards outside. You can kind of see the experiment here, and they're going to have they're going to do it through the different ability levels, 4 members of the same ability level, because the worksheets are differentiated. So for example, in the mediated group, they're going to be drawing their predictions, and then they're going to be drawing their results, and then they're going to be writing a sentence of what's the difference that they observed. While, for example, another group, the standard enrichment group, would be doing the same experiment, but they would be writing down their predictions. And they would be, for example, explaining why this is happening. So basically they will have 2 tests. One would be a gentle slope, which will be only 3 inches high. And then the next experiment would be 3 inches high, and then the next experiment would be 6 inches high. And so they would be comparing how the higher the slope, the more erosion is going to occur. And for example, the enrichment group is going to have a more challenging idea about can they control the erosion with rocks, with leaves, with roots, with sticks. Can they control it? And so they're going to kind of have that like challenging observation or prediction to do. After this get eroded, we're going to go down to session 4, which we're going to talk about volcanic activity. The title is How Fire Makes and Shapes Landforms. So the students are going to be able to arrange the volcanic events that lead up to the formation of either an island or a volcano using their timeline graphic organizer. So this will happen after the lesson. This will be activity number 1. And so it's differentiated because, for example, the mediated group is only going to have to do 3 events, and it's going to have to give just 2 facts for every event, but it doesn't have to be complete sentences. And for example, this is the enrichment group. They're going to be having more events. They're going to have to be more detailed. They're going to have to be breaking down the volcanic events more, and they're going to have to be describing it more in length. And then, for example, the enrichment group, instead of just writing the sentences or the facts, they're going to be writing a paragraph, putting everything together. After activity 2, which is a timeline, here's the rubric for the timeline graphic organizer rubric. After we've done this activity, we would go on to the social studies journal, and this is where the students can choose a writing activity that gives them the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge about the volcanic events that lead to the formation of either an island or a volcano. So basically what they're going to be doing is a personal diary of someone who witnessed the formation of that landform through volcanic activity. So it could be a local person living there, or it could be a scientist who just went to study the phenomenon, or they could also write like a fictional diary about someone who saw that type of volcanic events that led to the island or the volcano, but it could be a fictional place. The other ones are actually things are are not going to be fictional places, because one of them could be, for example, Mexico in 1943, that actually a new volcano was created. And for example, you can also do for islands, you can do how the certain Hawaiian islands were created, because there are local people who have uh, experienced that, so they could write that journal about that. And the mediated group would have a fill in the blank prepare paragraph for them, depending on what for the information they choose. Um, the standard group would have to explain 3 to 4 volcanic events that led to the formation, and each one has to have at least like 3 facts. And then the enrichment group would also have to have at least 4 volcanic events, like 4 journal entries, and they're going to need to explain it more in detail as well, and be able to reflect on the ways to improve this project. Session 5 is going to be on basic landforms. We're going to be using the think, pair, share strategy. So we're going to do the PowerPoint, we're going to discuss terms, we're going to look at the physical map and identify some landforms, and then I'm going to divide the class into pairs. I'm going to distribute a map to each student, and then we're going to do the think, pair, share strategy. And so here are the different differentiated worksheets. I thought this was a great idea because this is a way that I can assess what they're actually doing in their pairs. So here in the think pair image, they would, for example, the mediated group would have to write 2 answers. So they would need to look or identify 2 landforms. So here I have an example. So you put mountain and then the name of the mountain, or the number that represents that mountain range, or that mountain, so that they have those answers there. So first they think on their own, then the second step, they come together, they share ideas, and then here the same, the mediated group has to at least write 2 ideas from their partner, and they go on to step 3, which is where they share the ideas, and then review all of your ideas and circle the one you think is the most important and the one you will be sharing with the whole group. And then the last one is when they listen to everybody, some kids get distracted. So this is a way for them to focus more, because they know that they're going to have to write down at least here 2. The enrichment group is going to write down like 4 ideas that they liked, 4 different landforms that other groups were able to identify that they didn't. And then here's a rubric, and because I'm going to also be going and observing the students, so I'm going to be, the rubric is on that they filled out the handout, but also the rubric is going to be about the steps in the strategy, the steps performing the strategy and how they perform them. Then we're going to go on to bodies of water, where we're going to go over the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to discuss terms, we're going to look at pictures, definitions, and then I'm going to ask the students to make their own e-pages, because as a class we're going to create an e-book on water forms. So they're going to be using this worksheet, and then this worksheet has all the steps so that no team gets lost or does something different. So the first one is that the group's technology leader goes and picks up the iPads in the iPad charging station. The second one, they go to the Google app and there's a picture so nobody gets lost. Then each this worksheet is differentiated, so each group by ability level will have different landforms. And for example, this is a mediated group, they have islands and archipelagos, so they're gonna have to go in the Google Earth, look for them, and snap a picture of them. Then they can choose either of these 2 apps to be able to label their landforms and write a definition about it. So I placed here an example of it. I also tell them to write their name on it, and then to upload it to the Flickr account, the classroom Flickr account. And so at the end of that, I would have the students upload it there and have the class all share their e-pages together by showing them in the smartboard, and then using the script press, we would as a class make an ebook, and this would be a type of ebook that it could be shared. So my assessment method is going to be we're going to have a water form quiz, and we're also going to be having the e-pages, and the ebook will also be an assessment. That's our Landforms. The next session we're going to also be working with the PowerPoint, showing images, physical maps, identifying the different landforms. And then we're going to use the idea wave strategy. So the students are going to be by themselves listing 2 to 5 desert landforms that they see on a map. And then a volunteer begins the idea wave. So one starts sharing, here's the mesa, da da da. And then the next student, next to the volunteer student, that's where the wave starts. So then the next student answers, and the next student, and then so the teacher will direct the idea wave until all the desert landforms have been identified. And this right here is going to be the assessment. We're going to be taking a quiz, so this assessment is going to be differentiated. This is the Jello group. It's going to be the mediated group, and they're going to have a word bank and an open-ended question. And then this is the enrichment group. They will have no work bank. The standard group had a scrambled work bank. And so also their open-ended question is going to be a little more challenging than the other one. After that, we're going to have cooperate learning groups. And we're going to have different groups based on their preference. And I'm going to give them a choice of tier assignments to animate a landform formation process using drawing software, making a movie, using PowerPoint to show slides to display the forming process, make a 3D timeline, a model, whatever they choose to make. And this is going to assess their cooperate learning skills, and it's also going to assess their understanding of summarizing the objective of this activity is collaborate in groups in order to summarize how wind erosion shapes desert landforms. So they choose a desert landform like a canyon, and then they explain it, creatively how they summarize how the process was. So here I have some assessments, because it's going to be group work, and also it's going to be an individual and group assessment. So this is a group assessment. It's a peer work evaluation form, so that everybody knows that everyone's going to be held accountable for the workload that they have. And this is the rubric for the multimedia project. And I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go on to the next one. It's going to be session 8. I'm a rock, I'm a mountain, using body movement to describe landforms and bodies of water. So basically, just this activity is going to be the kids doing different movements and moving around to describe the landform. And the assessment is going to also be that they're going to write different simple riddles demonstrating their understanding of the characteristics of the landforms. And then lastly, we're going to be doing session 9 that talks about local landforms and their impact on communities. We're going to have a KWL chart, because we're actually going to invite a panel of local experts, and the students are going to write questions, like interview questions for the panel. And so the KWL chart is going to be useful because they're going to start filling out what they already know about how landforms and landform resources impact their community or communities, and then they're going to write W column their questions, and this column is going to help them to generate the interview questions. So they're going to be working in pairs to create the interview questions, and then after the interview with the local experts, they're going to write in the L column the answers to their questions. And so I'm going to assess them by their participation in the panel discussion and by grading their questions. So this is the end of my unit presentation. Thank you very much for your patience. And that's all.